Palworld can feel confusing and overwhelming at the start. This video is the guide I wish I had when I started. I'm Vadd, welcome to my beginner's guide for Palworld. Go ahead and start your game, and on drop in, we're going to make our way forward towards the wind-swept hills. Then we're actually going to turn around and let's see what's back here. Palworld does a great job of rewarding you for exploring, and it's often worth looking around. There's going to be a giant glowing object here, which is some adventure notes, and then this chest right here. That's weird, it's locked. Maybe something's wrong. Let's try again. Spawn in, drop in, go back down the hill, find the giant glowing blue adventure notes. Turn around, check the chest, and lock chest. The point I'm trying to make here is that no two adventures are exactly the same in Palworld. There's a little bit of RNG involved with things. A lot of the foundational kind of building block knowledge things we're going to go over here are going to be relevant for everyone, but sometimes you're going to catch different pals than me or have a different chest open up for you. Okay. We're going to make our way up the steps and give ourselves 3 big goals, okay? 3 goals. Let's craft some basic tools, catch a few pals, and make our way down the hill. That's it. That is the list of our goals right now. In the top right corner, there is that little mission box there, which actually has a few good objectives here for us early on, which is to grab this great eagle statue. These are fast travel points, which are very nice. And then after we've grabbed that statue, let's go ahead and pick up the stick and make our way over to this other adventurer and NPC at a campsite. Talk to them, they'll give us some resources, and then just catch our breath and take in the view. There's a whole world of fun and excitement in front of us. We do have 3 big goals: to craft some basic tools, catch some pals, and go down the hill. And going down the hill is kind of basic, and it's not complicated, and that's on purpose. Palworld is just not a complicated game, and in a lot of ways, yes, we could just check it off the list and run straight down the hill. I want to show you that. You can see there's a dirt path here on the side. You can pretty much just follow it straight down the hill and you'll get to the bottom of the hill and you can check it off the list. Great job. I've done Vadd's objective. I'm the best. Well, here's my point. Palworld is an open world, survival, crafting, base management, resource management, some light creature collecting type of adventure. And it's truly that an adventure. You know you're on the right path down the hill because you'll find another fast travel point as well as a little stone structure. However, what I really want to emphasize here is it's not a checklist game. You're not just doing things to check them off the list. Have fun. Find your own fun. Make your own fun. Wander. It's an open world. Go anywhere you want to. We're down the hill, but we haven't really done anything right. We're going to go back to the top, and we're going to spend our unused skill points. There's 3 points I think have the most value this early on. That's health, stamina, and weight. I think health probably has the most long-term value. Let's also open up our build menu here on the bottom left there. Okay, you can see that we're going to build a primitive workbench. It's also the mission objective on the top right as well. Once you select build, you have this little ghost outline. You can walk around with it to place it. Okay. We're going to place it down here. This looks nice. Once you place a structure, you then have to hold long press to build, and it's going to take some time. This is going to be the primitive workbench where we can build the stone pickaxe, the stone axe, and a club. Let's do that. We're going to pick up some stones that we find around here, and the first thing we're going to build is probably going to be that pickaxe. We needed 5 stones. They're just lying on the ground. You should be able to find 5. As you continue to look around, you will eventually find just 5 rocks lying on the ground. Once you craft it, you select craft, it goes into the queue, you long press again the craft, and you click again to pick up. Okay, it takes several button prompts, but we now have a pickaxe. Hey, this is a basic tool. Let's hit a rock. Look at that. Now we don't need to go around looking for rocks on the ground. We can find some stone. And we even got lucky. We got a little paldium fragment. Nice. We can now make the club, we can make the axe, and we're on our way to surviving. We're not just going down the hill, we're learning these basic tools that you really need. Now, as we level up, okay, you can see here we can move our tools around, we can unequip them, we can re-equip them, and if we want to shift them around, you can see in the bottom right there that there's a little button prompt, you can switch them around as well. As we level up, back in our inventory, there's a tech tree, okay? Unlocking these technologies are going to cost tech points. Go ahead and unlock the Pal Sphere. You don't want to always just spend all your tech points and unlock everything first chance you get. I recommend always holding on to them whenever you can. In this first section, I kind of know what I'm going to be building towards, so I can build these without issue. If you're struggling to do something, there might be a tech you need to build it. Let's go into our build menu, go into the disassemble mode, and let's disassemble this primitive workbench. These are the 2 big parts of building, right? Building something, taking it down. okay? The primitive workbench is how we made the primitive tools of the club, the axe, and the pickaxe. That's it. There's nothing complicated here. Now, they want us to get a paldium fragment. We already have one, but let's go ahead and find them. There are these little blue shiny rocks, and they're all over the place. Look at this. I mean, they're all around this little lake. You can get these all over the place. Paldium fragments. These are great. We need these. We need paldium fragments. We've got them. Okay. Go ahead and place down your primitive workbench. Okay. Go ahead and build it again. And we're going to go ahead from here and we're going to craft something new, the Pal Sphere. So remember, we had to spend the tech points to learn how to build these. Then we need to get the paldium fragment. And then we're able to craft it here at the bench. This is actually the completion of our first goal, to craft basic tools. We have the pickaxe, the axe, the club if we want to hit something, as well as the Pal Spheres. Now, Pal Spheres are great. We can use them to catch pals. You can see here that the percentage is shown, and sometimes the number goes up or down based on a couple of different things. There's a bonus if you throw the Pal Sphere at the back side of the pal. You're going to get a bonus. It's kind of a surprise sneak attack. If you lower their health, the percentage goes up. You have a better chance of catching them, and a couple other niche things. Once you catch a new pal, it's going to have a little pop-up here on the right. It gives you a little bit of info. The important thing to note early on, there's a bonus to capturing multiples of the same pal. So it's definitely going to be worth chasing down that XP bonus. Go to your inventory, open up the party tab, and you can see the basic skills here for our new pal. Back at our primitive workbench, wherever you place that down, this pal can actually help us craft things. Look, go to the party, select your Kativa, and see it has handiwork, okay? This pal has a skill of handiwork, so it'll help us craft things. It'll actually do all the crafting by itself. You can help it craft, but ultimately there's always a pal that does a job better than you, and your job here in Palworld is oftentimes to assign the right pal to the right job. Go into your options, and then your options, and then controls. You need to spend some time in here learning how to find the Command Pal tab. Command is an important button prompt to learn. You need to know the Command Pal prompt. It's going to bring up a big circular menu with important features. For example, right now we set our pal to focus on the same enemy. This means whatever enemy we're in combat with, they're going to then come and join the fight. Very nice. We can then open up that command menu again, and this time we can say, hey, I want you to be aggressive. Fight whatever you find, and it's going to start fights. Notice that's going to pull aggro. It's going to make other creatures aggressive towards us as well. So you might not want your pals on aggressive. You actually might want to set them to, hey, please stop attacking things. You're going to hurt something that I'm trying to catch. Oh my goodness, we can pull them back in our Pal Sphere, or we could turn them off from aggressive. Congratulations, you're officially doing it. You're catching pals, you're crafting basic tools. We're just gonna make our way down the hill as we go, continuing this trajectory. Just keep catching pals. Don't worry if your inventory fills up. They'll end up in the first pal box you build. Some pals you're gonna be unable to catch. They're just too tough. If you run out of supplies or tools, you can always recraft them. You know how to get stone. You know how to get that paldium fragment. You know how to get the wood. You can also see trees give you a little fiber, and you're going to be able to keep making your way down the hill. Keep crafting tools, catching pals, whatever you see, you're doing it. There's no rush here. Go at your own pace. Have your own fun. Nobody is saying, hey, you need to quick get here and do a thing. No, no, no. This is all at your own speed. If you're having trouble catching something, lower its health a little bit. If you die, it'll just throw you back up at that first checkpoint we got, the first fast travel point. Take your time, make your way down the hill, crafting tools and catching pals. You'll know, again, you're at the bottom of the hill here as you'll come to this little stone structure. So congratulations, you've done it. You crafted basic tools, you caught some pals, and you've made it down the hill. We're going to talk to the NPCs here. They're going to give us some items, potentially, maybe a side quest. You never know. And we'll pick up this green statue here, this giant glowing green Lif monk effigy statue. Very nice. Now, on your way down the hill, if it got dark and the night was coming, you could build a foundation and then put a wall on that foundation. And then on top of the wall, put a roof. Any building you need to do needs to have a foundation or a pillar, which acts as a foundation under it. So we have a foundation under, and then we'll put a bed on. Now notice the bed, it needs to be indoors. Okay, that means a foundation with a roof. The bed needs to be indoors. It needs to be a foundation, okay, with a roof. Now, once we put this bed down, we'll have to build it. And then we will be able to rest and sleep and skip the night. It's that easy. So if you've been out here too long and it starts to get late at night, you can go ahead and build this little structure. Now, if you don't have the foundation or the bed, Well, go into your tech tree and spend your tech points so that you unlock wooden structures in the bed. I mean, that's it. Everything needs a foundation to build. So if we destroy the foundation, it'll destroy everything. Good to know. Okay, on your way down the hill, did you find more treasure chests? There's a few of them around, and they're lots of fun. How about on your way down the hill, did you stop and talk to the friendly pal tamer? Did you try and catch the friendly pal tamer? I mean, you've got a pal, you've got a pal sphere. Everybody's an amigo if you try hard enough, right? This guy actually kind of took a lot of offense to this. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Okay, it was totally me. Seriously, though, think outside the box. You know, if you think, can I do this? Try and do it. Further down the hill, there's this fast travel point, and there's this veteran pal tamer. Did you try and catch the veteran pal tamer? I mean, you've got a pal sphere. They look like they could be a pal. Sure, why not? Or did you try and catch them, fail? Did you bring them up to this kind of field boss, okay? These big old mammorests, these field boss, the king of the forest, and see if you can see how much damage their gun actually does. Turns out, not enough. Listen, if you think you can do a thing, try and do a thing. Explore, adventure. We need to set a new goal. We're going to make our way through this little structure here and set some new goals here. We're going to catch more pals. We're going to find the first boss tower, and we need to get to a base location. This is going to be familiar to you. It's things you've already done so far up to this point. We're going to catch more pals. It's a huge part of Palworld, exploring and catching pals. You see that giant glowing tower straight in front of us? That's what we're walking towards. We're going to head in that direction, catching pals. If you run out of pal spheres, you might find some on the ground, but you also know how to craft the tools to make more pal spheres. You're going to be able to catch some stuff here that maybe you didn't see on the hill, and maybe some stuff you can't catch. It's a little too tough. Live and learn. Live and learn. We're going to make our way up the hill towards the giant tower. These boss towers are a great objective to work towards. They're not something we're going to cover in detail in this video, but I want you to know where the very first one is. The recommended level for this tower at this current time is level 15, but realistically, you can do it whenever you want. Whether you'll be successful or not will come down to the pals you bring and the power you have. This is the Rain Syndicate Tower. We found another fast travel point. And along the way, we're catching some pals, right? Here's another pal sphere on the steps. Very nice. To the left here is this tower. This is the first boss tower right here. It's a great challenge and definitely something to work towards. You'll need to catch stronger pals, train them up through fighting and whatnot so they get a higher level, and make your way back here. There's a 10-minute time limit on this tower. You can see it on the doors. So you can try it out. It's a pretty low-risk activity, depending on, I guess, your death settings, but it's something you need to know where it is, as it's something to be working towards later on. Again, outside the scope of this video on how to beat the boss, but suffice to say, you need to know about this, okay? Now, we want to get to a base location. I have two locations I recommend. There are timestamps in the video if you don't want to watch how to get to both of them, but we're going to go to the furthest one first. This first base location is a little further away than the second one from where we are right now, but it's still a good spot. As we make our way to this base location, I want you to recognize that you are playing the game. This is the game. The base play loop, the main core experience of Palworld is you go and explore, you fight some pals, you catch some pals, and you find a new base location and you build a new base, and then you keep progressing from there. Real quick here, you see this is a split in the road here. We can go to the right and we can follow the dirt road we're following. There's this kind of stone structure poking out, or we can go left up the grassy hill. We're going to go left up this grassy hill here. Hey, you're playing the game. There's a little more to it than what I just said, but that's kind of the core of it. You're going to keep exploring, keep finding new pals to catch. And as you explore and catch new pals, you're going to catch stronger pals. You're going to fight. You're going to grow in your experience and your damage. You'll know you're on the right path here because there's this stone bridge here. See this stone bridge? This is your landmark for, hey, I went the right way. Yay. And then we continue into the yellow trees here. Listen, you really are playing the game. If you think there's a whole lot more to it than what I just said, there's a little more, but not a lot more. Okay, so if this isn't kind of appealing to you, if you haven't been having fun up to this point, and you're like, hey, when does the fun start? Well, this is the fun. Look, we found the new pal we haven't seen before. Hey, that's cool. Let's catch it. That's what you do. You fight them, you catch them, you know, and you go and you get new resources. We're going to go to the right here towards the settlement and grab the fast travel point while we're here. because this is a fun little location and it's worth talking to everyone here, exploring. We're going to keep running to the base location. We'll go ahead and make this guy happy, make his day. 1% chance to catch. Good luck us. Fingers crossed he escaped. What are the odds? All right, back up the stairs here. Okay, there's actually another fork in the road. To the right was that settlement, which is your landmark, and then to the left here is this little dirt path. We're going to follow the left up the hill. Our next clue is we're going to head towards some steps and then a bridge. Nothing too tricky here. Listen, over time, you're going to find new locations you want to build a base on. Go for it. But your first base is kind of special because it's your first one, right? Up the steps here, you can see the bridge in the distance. You know we're on the right way. The first base is special because it's your first one, and I've picked these two locations with a lot of care to make sure that they're going to be a good spot to build your first base. I'm actually really tempted to catch these little creatures here. I've been kind of exploring for maybe a little too long, so we'll try and catch one really quick. Remember, it is part of our 3 goals, right? Catch pals, find the tower, get to our base location. So we really should be kind of catching pals along the way. This one's level 9. That'd be pretty sweet to catch. Not great odds, but I've got a few pal spheres to waste. Oh, goodness. The Syndicate is here. So there's a small plot line going on, and maybe it gets larger later on, with these Syndicate thugs, these bad guys. And they're up to no good. You know, they don't think pals are friends. They think pals are meant to be their slaves. I don't know. They've got a whole thing going on. It's not too crazy. All right, there's a bridge guy here, okay? He's going to try and shoot you. If you throw out your pal, you can distract him with your pal, okay? And it makes this a lot easier. This character I'm on right here has not spent a single attribute point. It is a base level character doing its best not to get killed. But if you throw out a pal, it'll distract the amateur hunter here, and then you can make your way. So again, like I said, there's a little more to the game than what I said. But for the most part, you explore, you catch pals, you fight pals, you build a base, you keep going forward. Listen, these Syndicate guys have these little pals trapped in cages. When you free them, they're now your pals. You're now best of friends. So it's definitely worth doing that, as it doesn't cost you any pal spheres. So it's pretty good. All right, we're just continuing straight, and we're going to start curving to the left here. So there's actually a split here. We can go to the right, or we can go to the left. We're going to go left, which is up the hill, okay, towards this side here, up the dirt path here. There's this giant ore rock shiny on the right, and go up the path here. So if you're like, then this isn't that much fun to me, all right, return it. Like, stop playing. Like, if you're not having fun, it's not going to magically become more fun. Look at the wolf up there. That guy's cool. This zone's a little higher level than where we started out, so it might be a little tough to get here. Make sure your spawn rates aren't crazy, because it could be kind of tough to get here if everything's spawning in triple. Right, 1 wolf is tough. 3 wolves is a little more tough. Listen, we're at the spot. You see these ore rocks over here? This is the spot. This is a great base location. It's wide open, flat. We've got a view of the ocean. We have these fun yellow trees, these rolling hills, and we have these ore nodes for a little later on when you need them. This is a great location. This is the first location I'm recommending. It's a little harder to get to, but I think it's a really fun spot for your first base. It's got some good stuff here that's definitely worth, you know, it's an easy spot to build. It has plenty of trees and stones and whatnot to kind of get yourself off the ground and running. I highly recommend here for your first base. It's just a good spot. It's that simple. A little hard to get to. It takes a little bit of work to get here, but it's definitely worth it. Back at the previous fast travel point, right out the tower, right? We go back up the steps. We're going to go to the right. Again, we're going to run into some Syndicate thugs, and we're going to be catching pals. Remember, our 3 main goals here: get to a base location, find the tower, catch the pals. Catch those pals. You see something new and fun, engage with it. Try and figure it out. Again, we're going to run into some Syndicate thugs like we did in our last run. These guys really do think that pals are kind of slave labor. Really, we all know pals are friends. So we're going to go ahead and free this pal and make them our friend. Now they work for us. Totally better. I mean, we are such a better taskmaster. Listen, as we're on the way here for our next base location, let's catch some pals. This is a new one we haven't caught yet. There was some on the hill, but I didn't engage with them on the way down. So this character here is going to work on trying to catch them. Darn, my Kativa's a little too much for these foxy guys here. If we can catch something new, we will. This is the game. This is the core experience of Palworld. You explore, you fight, you catch new pals, you find a cool spot for a base, you start building a base. That's the core of the game, okay? I just want to make sure I've hammered that home here in this beginner guide. Now, sometimes you can get away with catching these little Syndicate thugs. Let's see, he's kind of low health. This might be a good opportunity for us. Excuse me, sir. Would you like to come work for me? Come on. All right, good enough. We caught a couple foxes. We caught a thug. We'll take that. We'll see what we can do. Take him back to our base, make him our own. Listen, we're going to make our way up here towards this hill. And there's a little windy, jumpy spot here. We're going to go ahead and jump up the wind spot. This is nice. And we're almost at our base. There's two main ways to get to this base outside of like flying, okay? There's going to be that bridge there on the right. And then these little rocks, we're going to jump our way up. Those are the two ways to get into this base. So it's a nice location simply because there's only two ways to get into it. So you only need one big gate if you're worried about kind of getting raided. Not a big deal though. This is our second spot. It's relatively flat as well. There's some fun things you can kind of build up into the hill, especially with pillars, and it has some ores to help you out early on. This is the second base location I'm going to recommend for a beginner. These are my two base locations, timestamp, so you can find them. These are great spots to build your very first base. Now that we have some options for a base location, up next, let's talk about base building basics, a little bit of PAL management, and emphasize the importance of leveling up. Here at the second base location, you can see there's two main ways to get up here into this base. There's the rocks. We jumped our way up over here on the left, and then kind of in front of us here down on the right, we have this bridge. So the rest of the base kind of goes back towards this plateau here behind us, which is where we want to put our PAL box. You can see that's our current mission objective, and this is the fundamental, foundational first piece of every base. Now, once we put down the PAL box, it's going to be a fast travel point in a location we can spawn in when we die. It's going to put down this blue circle. Everything inside the blue circle towards the PAL box is inside the base. Everything outside the PAL box is outside the base. You can still build outside the base, but it's going to affect your PALs. You can see some of these trees are kind of a little bit outside the blue line, a little bit inside the blue line. So if you want to move your PAL box, just like before, go into your build menu, disassemble, and then you can adjust where this goes down. And then you can kind of look where this PAL box goes. Sometimes I'll use a landmark like these two ore rocks next to me to try and figure out how I want to squeak the box around. It's not really a big deal. Don't overthink it. This is part of why we try and pick flat open spaces to build. But if you don't like the first placement, you can move it. It's not a big issue. And you can see here as we hunt down that blue exterior baseline here that this tree's now inside the base. I'm a little bit happier with just this positioning here. So I'm happy with this. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. But you can take all the time in this you want to. Don't overthink it. It's not a big deal. Okay, so you can see I've got plenty of room on this cliff as well. All is well. We're going to want to keep leveling up as we're building things, crafting things, catching PALs, fighting PALs. Everything we do more or less gives us a little bit of XP. So as long as you're active, you're going to be getting XP for the most part from our PAL box. Let's go to the PAL management menu. Very important menu here. Okay. In this menu, if you have any PALs that are knocked out, you can move them into your box. They'll no longer be incapacitated. They'll have a little cooldown timer, and then they'll be good to go again. Very nice. We can also see the current tasks our PALs are able to do. So we've got this Gumas guy here who can plant. He's got that little green plant. Let's move him down into the PAL at the base. We now have our first PAL who's going to wander around inside the blue circle and try and do the job they can do. Again, we can see here, if we view details, their work suitability and their passive skills. So we already know the big boy here likes to plant. Let's go ahead and put down a berry planter so we can put down some berries. Very nice. He's going to go over here and keep planting. It's inside the blue circle, and this is literally the only job he's doing. You can see who's working here, what they're doing, and what needs to be done next. There's also a little sanity meter you can see as well. While PALs are working, their sanity goes down. Okay, you want to keep your eye on that. Now, we also want to water these plants. Let's find a PAL who can water and move them in our PAL box down into the PALs at the base. Hey, we've got a watering PALs. I don't know which PAL you're going to have caught up to this point. Okay, so you're going to have a PAL that can water, and if you don't, go catch one that looks like they water. Catch somebody who's blue or by the water. Now, to help with our PAL's sanity, okay, put down some PAL beds. This is the secret to raising their sanity. Don't overwork them, okay, and put down PAL beds so they can rest. Easy. Now, notice here, our little Gumas guy's planting. That's all he does. But our little penguin boy, the little blue guy here, he can build and water. And currently there's something to build, so he's not watering. But I put down 2 more beds. What do you think he's going to do? Will he go water, or will he keep building? We're going to see here this little interaction. Oh, he went to go build. This is important to know. Sometimes you have a PAL who's just not quite doing what you want him to do, and that's because they have another task they have access to that they've gone off and done. So you want to keep your eye on that. Hey, this guide took a ton of research, testing, and time to put together. If you found it helpful and want to help me making more content like this, consider joining as a channel member or Patreon supporter. Your support directly funds the channel and helps me stay independent. Thank you. Okay, the third bed of 4 is done. Does he go water? No. He goes and keeps building beds. Okay, there's nothing left to build in the base. Does he go water? Yes. Okay. So on one hand, sometimes it's nice to have a specialized pal that can only do one job, but early on and often you have a pal that can do multiple jobs. Again, we can go into the details and see he can transport stuff. So once these berries are done, this little guy here is going to carry them over to a berry box once we build that berry box, feed box, whatever it's called. Now you might say to me, Vadd, I don't have these things. Well, remember, you have your tech tree points that you've been saving up because you're not spending them, right? Wink. So go ahead into your tech tree and unlock it like we talked about at the beginning. Unlock this in your tech tree. There we go. Our base is officially self-sustaining. None of the pals are going to starve. Their sanity won't go too crazy. All is well. Let's upgrade the base. You can see here, in order to do this, we need to build a wooden chest and deploy a pal to work. And now when we upgrade the base, it'll increase the number of pals that can work. There's lots of good production buildings to build. I'm going to build the ranch next. You can build whatever production building or ranch building you like to build next, but I know I have somebody I want to put in the ranch, so I'm going to do that. Maybe you got someone who likes to cut trees, so you put down, a different production building first, but I'm going to start with this ranch because I happen to get that Vixie from the Syndicate base earlier on the walk over here. And I know Vixie can work in the ranch. Whenever you build a building, it's going to show you right in the middle. Hey, it requires farming. It's going to have the icon and the name of the skill. So you can always use that as a reference point to then come back to your pal box and see who has that farming icon. Okay, I've got a Vixie. Let's go ahead and throw them out to work on our base. Yay. Now, Vixie, is going to be in here walking around, and over time she's going to find some items, which is very nice, and then someone with transporting will need to then pick up the items, or you'll have to pick them up yourself. Moving forward, keep leveling up, go out there and catching pals, getting that early game pal catch bonus once you catch a bunch of them, and keep adventuring, keep exploring, and just catching those pals and leveling up and finding new places and new things, and ultimately have fun, enjoy your time in Palworld. Other good objectives to work for are the missions. They're on the top there on the screen. You can complete missions, follow those objectives, get a lot of good stuff done in base upgrades. Check your pal box for what's next to upgrading your base. And as you continue to adventure on and level up and unlock new things, you're going to challenge the field bosses, these, roaming pals you can fight, you can catch. The tower bosses are a new challenge as well. And there's also caves to explore. There's so much adventure ahead of you. My first recommendation is to focus on these Vixies. These are a really great tame as they passively are going to get you some pal spheres. Right at the start of your base, you'll be getting down your berry box, building out your berry farms so you can feed your pals. However, none of these things matter if you don't have pal spheres to go catch pals. Nixies can be placed inside the farm. You can hold up to 4 of them currently in a farm, which is pretty sweet. And then they can passively generate pal spheres for you. Awesome. Open up your Palpedia. When you're on the Palpedia page, you're going to be able to scroll over to the stats and then the habitat tab. Inside of the habitat tab, it's going to give a glowing outline on where on the map this creature lives for daytime and for nighttime. You open up your map, this is the starting zone right here. You can see there's going to be a small settlement fast travel point. This is going to be the closest fast travel point for us. From the small settlement fast travel point, we're just going to make our way up the hill here. And we're going to be right in this zone from the Palpedia where the Vixies are in their habitat. Right up the hill here, you can go left, you can go right. Either way, you're still inside of that zone, which is worth keeping your eye on. I got lucky and got some out here out front, which is pretty great. We're still just in this zone. Anywhere in that orange zone during day, there's a chance Vixies are going to spawn in and then just go crazy. This is a great starter early game pal simply because of the fact that it's easy to catch. You can catch them with pal spheres. You don't need anything too tricky. You can beat them down with your hands. You can beat them up, take them home, make them your friend. Do your pal sphere throwing thing. Listen, Vixies are going to be not only easy to catch, but easy to find. If they're not out here, clear the zone and just respawn, and you might find them. Now, back at the base, reasons we pick the Vixies. They drop pal spheres, but they also drop arrows, gold coins, and bones. And these are all great early game resources. You can also condense Vixies with the pal condenser, unlocked at level 14. This is going to allow you to level up their skill, their dig here skill that lets them drop those 4 items, find those 4 items. You can see here the skill, dig here, sometimes digs up items from the ground when assigned to the ranch. The PAL sphere condenser, the PAL condenser, no spheres, just condenser, is going to let you condense Vixies. So each Vixie you throw in is going to cost a little bit more, okay? But as you throw in more Vixies and condense them, you're going to be leveling up that dig here skill. So if you catch a bunch of them and level it up to, I believe it's dig here level 5, you're actually going to be able to unlock the hypersphere. Vixie will have a chance at dropping hyperspheres, which is a level 27 sphere and pretty far up the capture power rankings. Listen, Vixies, for all these reasons, easy to catch, great drops, and the ability to condense them to keep them relevant later on definitely makes them one of the absolute best starter pals for everyone's early game in Palworld. The Tombat is a really excellent early game pal to have on your team. You can see they have a base level of 2 for all 3, transporting, gathering, and mining. This is a really excellent pal to have early on. In the opening zone of the Windswept Hills, they spawn in pretty much everywhere. Because there isn't just one singular spot they're supposed to be, it can sometimes be hard to find them. Because they start with a base level 2 of mining, they can mine the ores, which is really nice for your progression as you move from the early game into the mid game. They also have that level 2 transporting, so they can transport the ores. You definitely want to pick up the monitoring stand at level 14 in your tech tree when you can. Over at the monitoring stand, it's going to give us a little more options to make our Tombats more effective. Sometimes I like to turn one of my Tombats early on into a dedicated transporter so that I click mining off so that it's just transporting materials. This way, I don't just have a million things lying around the base as they try and mine through every rock before they can respawn. I have one of them transporting to help things out. In addition, at the monitoring stand, you can see they're nocturnal. This means that when your other pals are going to sleep after a hard day of work, your nocturnal pals are out there working. It means you need to manage their sanity a little bit better with hot tubs, but it's definitely nice to have some pals that are working around the clock. Again, they spawn in pretty much everywhere in the opening zone, but the key is that they only spawn at night. So if you watch on the lower left of your screen, there's that little icon that changes from the sun into a moon when it's nighttime, and that's when you can catch nocturnal pals like the Tombat. When you go into your Palpedia and you're looking for the habitat, it's going to say, doesn't seem to be active at this time. That's your clue in the bottom right corner. You use the button prompt there to switch the habitat zone from day to night. Then you can see in game, it spawns all over these opening zones. I like to start my hunt from the small settlement fast travel point located here in the map. It's right in the opening section, it's easy to find and get to, and it's inside their spawn zones. From here, I'll usually run up the steps, and I'll make my way over to the left. Sometimes the Tombat's here, sometimes it's not. Eventually, I will find one. I do think it's easier to catch these with a bow and arrow to get a little damage on them rather than your fist or the bat, but you can hit them with a melee weapon. These are a pretty low level beginner tame. You're gonna have no problem catching them with that base level opening PAL starter sphere. The Tombat having level 2 transporting, mining, and gathering makes it an excellent starter tame for your Palworld adventures. An absolute must-have tame for the beginning of your Palworld journey is Peking. Peking is a monster at the base with a ton of great, strong level 2 work suitability. In the Palpedia on the Habitat tab, you can see there's quite a few spots that the Peking does populate. I recommend opening up your map and farming Peking from the Sealed Realm of the Frozen Wings fast travel point. This is a dedicated instance. From the Sealed Realm of the Frozen Ring fast travel point, we'll just make our way up the steps and we'll be at the arena. Peking has level 2 in watering, in handiwork, in transporting, in mining, and cooling. It's really a great tame to have. It offers a lot of utility and power to moving you from the early game strong into the mid game. When you get to the top of the steps, you can enter the dungeon. You can see the level of the dungeon. I'm going to recommend making sure that you take out the little penguins first and then focus on the big penguin. If you happen to enter this at night, the little guys might be sleeping. You can get a jump on them. I have spawn rates set to 3, which means there's 3 of everything. I recommend lowering the spawn rates if you're struggling, so it's a one-on-one fight. I open up the fight taking out the little guys, so I can then focus on the big boys. The biggest challenge of this fight is the need to keep moving so you don't get frozen in place. You're going to spend kind of the first half of the fight mostly dodging and looking for opportunities to sneak in a couple attacks to slim down the numbers of the little guys. Once it's just you and the big boy, it's on. Pecking is not a super challenging fight as far as power of fight goes, but if you show up incredibly underleveled or underpowered, it will be more difficult than expected. This is an early game tame that I have had no trouble getting into a pal sphere. Once you've completed the dungeon, you're going to have a 1 hour cooldown before you can come back in. Back at the base at the monitoring stand, we've got our Vixies working away up to this point. We've got our Tombats working nocturnally, and Peking has some overlap with Tombats. Sometimes I'll turn off the mining on the Peking and leave up all their other very useful skills. Having level 2 watering and handiwork is surprisingly nice to have this early in the game. Peking's ability to mine and transport is also really solid, and his cooling is nice if you do start to get into some beginner refrigeration. Peking is a great utility tame early on. We aren't here flying in circles, hoping for the best in slot eggs and then having to wait for them to hatch, and we aren't here cooking merchants to buy our way forward. This guide took a ton of research, testing, and time to put together. If you found it helpful and want to help me making more content like this, consider joining as a channel member or Patreon supporter. Your support directly funds the channel and helps me stay independent. Thank you. I have a really excellent set of options for planting and gathering. There's a really great duo here that work quite well interchangeably. We have Petelia, which is number 87 in the Palpedia, which comes in strong with level 3 planting, level 2 gathering, as well as 2 handiwork and 2 production and 1 in transporting, alongside Belette, which is number 78 in the PAL deck, who also has a very strong 3 in medicine production and level 2 in planting, handiwork, and gathering, and 1 in transportation. Starting from the windswept hills, if you come all the way down south, there's an island out here. You are going to need a pal that can swim or fly to get here, okay? It's the Wildlife Sanctuary number 1. It's going to be illegal to get here. It's a very distinctive place. You're going to see in big letters, criminal activity. If the Island Defense Force finds you here, there will be fights, okay? But for the most part, it's a giant distinct structure. You're going to be able to go just straight south from the windswept hills, that starting zone, into Wildlife Sanctuary number 1. I have spawn rates turned up, so more of them are spawning than would normally be here. These are not the most rare thing to spawn in this zone, but I would consider either of them uncommon. However, since either of these 2 options here works well for our base, getting us into the best starter pals for this early game section of Palworld, you can catch either one. You've got a really high chance of finding them out here. Again, we're able to use pal spheres for both of these tames, as they're not a crazy high level. You know, we generally find them well under level 20 or around level 20, which is around the limit of a pal sphere. But if you get them low enough on health, you take your time, you whittle them down, you're going to be able to catch these tames. They're really excellent planting, gathering tames, as well as medicine if you end up going in that route. Back at base, I have some issues where they finish planting, gathering, etc., and they start transporting, so I went ahead into my monitoring stand, and I told both of them that, hey, I don't really want you guys carrying stuff around. The transporting, it's not what you're best at, and we have lots of other tames that are excellent at this. Overall, as far as the planters, the gatherers, and the medicine tables, if you go with that, these 2 tames are just really fantastic picks to be able to go out there and catch. When it comes to generating electricity, Grisbolt is just so fantastic right at the start. He's just a really good team to have in your base. He's got a strong level 3 in generate electricity and a very strong level 3 transporting skill, as well as level 2 in handiwork and lumbering. This is definitely a team you're going to want to have in your base early so you can take advantage of those stats. Again, it's going to be in the Wildlife Sanctuary here, okay? So see the windswept hills, the starting zone. You go straight south from the windswept hills starting zone. It's a very distinct structure. When you fly up on it, you will need a team that can fly or swim to get here. It is defended by the Island Defense Force. You don't want to mess with those guys, okay? They will fight you. They will try and mess you up. But as you get closer to it, you're going to see criminal activity underway. And just try not to fight those guys, okay? Oftentimes, I think Grisbolt is the most rare spawn on this island. I will clear up the island once, twice, 3 times. It'll be a bit of a slaughter sometimes, but eventually it will spawn in. It doesn't have to be at day or at night. It spawns in. I found it in both times, at day and at night. This time we're here in the day, so maybe it only spawns during the day, but it's very close to the night cycle, but I did get it to spawn in. Now, this is probably also the hardest thing to fight on the island. Even at the lower levels of the things on the island here, it's around level 20. It's still actually pretty tough to fight. It's got a lot of tough moves and a little bit of a stun effect with the electricity. But again, you want this tame. It's such a good early game tame. Having that strong level 3 electricity, level 3 transporting skill, just really nice for your base. And the handwork lumbering at level 2 is nothing to scoff at. We can catch these in Pal spheres. It's pretty tough to do. You don't want to bring a lot of spheres, but get that status effect going, get their stat points, get them lower down. Maybe you've got some Lift Monk effigies that you've been turning in successfully. You're going to be able to catch these guys with Pal spheres when they're at this kind of lower level, around level 20. And they're going to be a really strong Pal to have back at your base. At my base over here on the monitoring stand, I actually really don't want this guy helping build things or logging. I'm really content with him just to be generating electricity. Okay, and when he finishes capping the electricity, if there's nothing more there to do, he'll go and start transporting stuff. 2 skills he is locked in at level 3 at. Very nice. Kindling is one of the last things we're missing in our base here, and the Wixen is a really nice tame. It's a little bit of a distance to travel, but from the windswept hills, you can see here, we're going to head up and to the right. You're going to probably want a flyer or something to ride to get here. You can do it on foot. You genuinely can run the whole way here. It just takes a while, but it's a fun little trip if you want to do it on foot. I recommend going there as fast as you can. You're kind of in the right zone where the Wixens are spawning in. There's going to be this giant kind of bone, ribs, carcass of some beast. There's going to be these big Yormantides in here, which are a great tame, but they're beyond our abilities here in the early game. They're closing on level 40, and we're just not quite there yet. These Wixens are going to spawn out here. They're going to be walking around. They've got their little red hats. They're pretty dangerous. They can light you on fire and really get your health pretty low. But again, under level 20 here, no problem using a Pal sphere to get these guys down. And reasons we want them: level 2 kindling's excellent, level 2 transporting's not bad at all, and level 3 handiwork, really nice. These are a great early game tame to get you on your way. There are 2 main reasons you'll want to engage with Palworld's breeding mechanics. 1, you'll be able to access rare, powerful, and useful pals, and 2, you can inherit passive skills to stack powerful traits. I think most casual players are going to find that Palworld's breeding is less essential. You can currently progress through the core game with wild caught tames. Understand, if you are seeking to really optimize your pals, the breeding tools are the path to success. The first step in Palworld breeding is to make cake. This can be done at your cooking pot. The cooking pot is unlocked at level 17 in your tech tree. Once you've built your cooking pot, you can go into the recipes. And there you can see cake, which currently requires 5 flour, 8 red berries, 7 milk, 8 eggs, and 2 honey. Yikes. I'm going to leave on screen right now a quick graphic here that shows all the ingredients and if you need to grow them or build them on the ranch. And I'm going to show you how to get all of them next. So I'm going to leave this up for just a moment longer in case you want to take a screenshot. It's going down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The ranch is a core building we're going to utilize to farm the cakes that we need. In the tech tree, you can see the ranch is unlocked at level 5, so pretty early on. And this one building can hold 4 pals, so it can do a lot of the heavy lifting. The first ingredient we're going to try and get our hands on are the red berries. We can, of course, place down a berry plantation, and this is going to let us get red berries. A second option to get red berries is actually the ranch. There's a pal you've probably walked by a few times that has a big berry bush on its back. The Capricorn will passively drop berries in the ranch. You can see in the Palpedia, it's number 35. And when you go into the habitat tree, you're going to see a map of where they spawn. You started right in the beginner zone of the windswept hills. You've probably passed by them a few times. They are out there and they are not hard to find. This is a great pal to throw in your ranch to passively generate the red berries we need. Next on our list, we're going to get the egg, which will come from the chickpea. This is a great early game find to throw into our ranch so we can farm the eggs we need for our cake. It's number 3 in the pal deck, and you can see the egg lane is in the partner skill. This is important because at level 14, you unlock the condenser. which will allow you to level up the egg laying skill, get more eggs. Each time you condense a PAL, it's going to increase the cost, as well as level up that partner skill. This was bugged at launch, and currently condensing does increase drop quantity, and yes, as a passive skill, work speed does shorten the time between drops. Something you can be doing for all of your ranch pals that are farming items with their partner skills. You can condense them to increase drop quantity, and you can be focused on passive skills that have a work speed bonus to shorten the time between drops and further improve your farming. Next on our cake baking list, we're going to get the milk. This is going to come from a Mazzarina. This is a great early tame to find. If you go into your Palpedia, it's number 29. You go into the habitat menu, you can see it's just beyond the wind-swept hills, right in the starting zone. You're going to be able to get the Mazzarina for the milk. Remember, the milk maker is a partner skill, which means you can condense Mazzarinas, as condensing increases the drop quantity, and you could be looking for passive skills that increase work speed to shorten the time between drops. I also think it's worth mentioning at this point that you definitely want to make sure you have down the monitoring stand. Some of the tames you're putting into the ranch may have alternate skills. They may go off and get involved in a fight or start harvesting something, and you want to be able to manage that so they are working on what you think they are and what you want them to be working on. Not to get too tricky here, you also want to know about the feed box. Inside the feed box, your pals eat the food from left to right. Inside the feed box, your pals eat the food from left to right. This means the milk we're going to be using to make our cake, if this was in the leftmost slot, they would be drinking the milk and we would be losing that resource. So make sure that the cake baking items are to the right in your feed box, and the food items you want them eating are to the furthest left in your feed box, because your pals eat from left to right in your feed box. B-Guard is going to harvest the honey in our ranch. B-Guard is number 50 in the pal deck. They're going to be the toughest one to actually go out and catch. They're a little bit further away. The B-Guard for the honey is further away than the other tames from the starting zone of windswept hills. In addition, the B-Guards explode when they get close to you. So there's 3 good tips to catching them. You can go at night to try and catch them when they're asleep. So you get a few hits in and a few pal spheres thrown. You can cancel out their exploding animation by using lightning attacks by riding a tame that has lightning-based damage, that electric damage. You can also throw a pal sphere right before they're going to explode to start the catch animation and reset the explosion. If you're unsuccessful catching them or accidentally kill them, they are going to drop honey as well. So if you're just trying to get a couple of cakes, you could just wipe out a couple batches of the B-Guards and get the honey from the drops. Again, a ranch can hold 4 tames, so you can put in there your chickpea for your eggs, your Mazzarina for your milk, your Capriti for the berries, and your B-Guard for the honey. So all 4 of them will fit into one ranch if you so choose. Again, you can improve their drop rates by condensing them, and you can improve their drop rates by making sure their passives are work speed related.
If this guide saved you time or helped you enjoy the game more, consider joining as a channel member or Patreon supporter. You'll get early access, bonus content, and you'll be directly supporting more guides like this. Huge thanks to everyone who's already joined.
In order to get the flour for our cake, we need to plant wheat. This means we're going to need a pal that can plant, gather, transport, and water. This is not likely going to be one singular pal, just depends on what you've caught up to this point. Once we have planted the wheat, at level 15 you unlock the mill. You'll need to take the wheat to the mill. The mill is also going to require a pal who can use watering to work the mill wheel. Once the wheat is in the mill and the watering pal is finished, we're going to have our flour. Very exciting. And then bring our flour as the final ingredient to make our cake. This will of course require a pal with kindling to bake the cake. Finally, there is one more established way to get your hands on the ingredients to make your cake. Right in the starting zone, there's a fast travel point at the small settlement. We're going to head there. From the small settlement fast travel point, we can make our way down the hill to the merchant. The merchant is going to sell all the ingredients. So the berries, the milk, the eggs, the wheat, as well as berry seeds, wheat seeds, all the things we need to make the cake. You'll still need to mill the wheat and cook the cake. This is an alternative option if you decide to buy ingredients instead of farm ingredients. Don't forget that you can capture the wild merchants. It can be a little tricky, but it's definitely something you can do. The benefit of doing this is then you can go back at your base into your PAL box and place down the merchant with all the rest of your pals. This allows you to walk right up to them in your base and buy the ingredients here instead of fast traveling to the small settlement. If your base is really tight on space, at level 15, you can unlock the viewing cage. This structure lets you place your pals in them for your viewing pleasure. Understand, you'll still need to walk up and talk to them, and they're isolated inside the viewing cage. There are some workarounds to make your way into the cage that I'm never really sure if they're going to get patched or not. I've heard one workaround is to fill the cage with the largest pals you can. It can force some of the smaller pals to the edges. I often try and just build a simple structure so I can place a staircase under the viewing cage. This lets me walk up under the cage and get access to the merchants. Another option is to place a sneaky wall and then start to climb the wall. And you can make your way directly into the cage like this. However, there's 3 big problems. You're now stuck inside the cage. Way to get out is to respawn from the menus. And 2, we're just moving further into glitch territory, and this just seems like a lot of work. I'd rather just throw down the wandering merchant in my base, make my trade, and throw him back in my PAL box. I don't feel like this viewing platform is worth it, and it's way too big. I'm hoping in a future update we get a more manageable viewing place that's a little smaller in size. I also think, especially in the early to mid game, it's a lot of work to set up an efficient gold farming base, and it's a little easier just to set up a cake farming base for your breeding. At the later levels, there's more efficient pals you can get your hands on and more efficient technologies that make gold farming and buying ingredients pretty fast. That being said, right at the start, you can get all of this set up from the beginning zones, and you can get right into the breeding, which is very nice. Congratulations, pat yourself in the back. You now officially know how to set up a cake making base. This is a huge accomplishment, as this is the one core key necessary ingredient for all your Palworld breeding. This will carry you through the entirety of your beginning, middle, and end game content. Maybe in a future update something will change with breeding, but as of the time of recording, you must have cake. At level 19 in the technology tree, we can officially build the breeding farm, and at level 7 we can unlock the egg incubator. Breeding farm is a very large structure. Once you have your egg incubator and your breeding farm built, this is going to be the box right here outside where our cake is going to go. Currently made 3 cakes. We go into our recipes and just see how we're doing. You can make a total of 103 cakes. I'm going to click allow transport by pals. I'm going to check the allow transport by pals box. This means that as these cakes are cooked, they're going to automatically deliver themselves into the box directly outside the breeding farm. You can see in our inventory, the cake has a timer before it spoils. When that cake spoils, it's gone forever. In the breeding farm, you can see the timer does not run down, keeping the cakes safe forever. No one eats these unless they are here in the breeding farm. There are 2 main ways to get your pals to breed. Number 1, you can run right up to them, pick them up, and you can throw them into the farm. You can see on the left, fixed assignment to breeding farm. I much prefer to use the monitoring station. I think this makes things a lot easier. Go down to the breeding farm, and we can assign any 2 pals we like. You can see we have a Caprity here in the top right corner. There is a blue symbol. And over here, the second Caprity on the left, there is a pink symbol. Okay. You'll need 1 male and 1 female to breed. You can see the blue symbol there on the right with the circle and the arrow to the top right corner. That is the male symbol. And then you will need the female, which is the circle with the kind of plus symbol underneath in the corner as well. There are an absolute load of great breeding calculators. If you just search on your internet browser, just say, hey, breeding calculator, Palworld, you're going to see a bunch of calculators. I'm going to help you out making 1 pal in a small chain here so you can kind of see how that develops. Specifically, I'm going to help you get an Anubis. Anubis has 3 really strong work suitability skills. You can see they have transporting at level 2, mining at level 3, and handiwork at level 4. This is a great POW to pick up early. You can actually see Anubis is a level 47 world boss. We can go out and challenge. Just a field boss hanging out, and that's a little beyond our levels at the start. My solution is simple. Number 26 in the Palpedia is the Dire Howl, and I'm going to put a Dire Howl in the breeding farm alongside number 38 in the Palpedia, the Nightwing. These two together, once they breed, are going to give me number 60 in the Palpedia, a Rayhound. I don't have one of these yet. We'll need to move both of these pals from our box into our pals at the base. I have a Dire Howl in my base right now, who is a male. I'll make sure I grab a female Nightwing, place them in my base. Go over to assignment board, and I'll make sure I assign the Dire Howl and the Nightwing. They're going to hang out here a while. They're now the two best of friends. Wonderful. Walk into the breeding pen and see love is blossoming between the two pals. Isn't that beautiful? If we go over to the Dire Howl, view details, the Dire Howl has a skill called Work Slave, giving a plus 30% work speed and minus 30% attack. This work speed trait would be nice to have on this Anubis. The Nightwing in here has the Philanthropist buff. This means breed speed is increased by 100%. That means the time it's taking this egg to hatch is 100% faster. It's not bad either. There are 4 possible slots for passive skills, and there's a chance to pass on passive skills from the 2 parents that are breeding. In addition, there's also a chance that a completely new passive skill will be passed on. The reason I recommend looking up a breeding calculator, there are multiple combinations to make the tame we're trying to get. Look, we have our first egg. The Dire Howl's work is done. Let's hatch this egg and get our Rayhound. We now have a Rayhound. Look at the skills it got. Philanthropist, Work Slave, and the Power of Gaia. 2 of those skills are on the parents, Philanthropist and Work Slave. Now we have the Nightwing and the Rayhound in the breeding farm. I happen to know, through using online breeding calculators, that this will result in the Anubis I want. This is a great early tame you can get at level 19, as that is the earliest you can unlock the breeding farm. This is going to be an Anubis egg. Very nice. There are tens of combinations, if not hundreds of combinations, to get most any POW. Anubis is a great POW to get early on because of its high work suitability, and it's a pretty good fighter as well. I've been hatching Anubis eggs, and I've got an Anubis here that has 2 pretty good passive skills. One skill is Artisan, which is going to give it a 50% work speed bonus, so it's going to complete the jobs it's working on with a 50% bonus speed. It's going to be faster. And the second skill is Abnormal. It has a decrease in incoming neutral damage by 10%. These aren't bad skills, but this Anubis is going to work in my base. I don't really need this Abnormal skill. I could try and breed another Anubis that doesn't have this skill, but that's kind of a hassle. You're not going to have access to this right away, but at level 36, you can get the PAL surgery table. This is a great structure to know about and to look forward to unlocking. Let's take a look at what we can do here at the surgery table. First, we're going to select our level 16 Anubis, and we have 2 strong things we can do here. We can change their gender. Remember, we need a male or female with a male or female. Okay, so if we were trying to breed something that had a good passive skill we wanted to pass on, it was the wrong gender for the other PAL we wanted to breed together, this will be one way to switch that. You'll need a PAL reverser item. We'll talk about that later. Let's use the transfer passive tool. Select our Anubis and look through the passive skill list. This is going to have a default number of items here and then some other ones you can unlock later on. The Sirius is a great trait. It gives a plus 20% work speed bonus. Let's select that. We can either get rid of Artisan, we can get rid of Abnormal, or we can add it in a new slot. Let's get rid of Abnormal. This is going to require us to have 10,000 of the Palworld monies. It's going to get rid of the Abnormal passive and put the Sirius passive. Now you can see this Anubis has the Artisan passive skill, giving it a 50% work speed bonus, and the Sirius passive skill, giving it a 20% work speed bonus. This is going to be really nice to have this Anubis working in my base. It's going to be very efficient. There's lots of good passive skills. For example, Nocturnal. Maybe you want to make it so your Anubis works at night. That could be fun too. To unlock more skills for the surgery table menu, currently in game there are 2 main ways to do that. First way is at the arena. I'm not going to spoil where this is. I just want you to know that it exists. There's an arena merchant here specific to the arena, and he will exchange your battle tickets from arena fights for various goods. This is one of the places you can get the PAL reverser to change the gender and new implants for the surgery table. Once you've bought these implants once, you'll have them unlocked for unlimited uses. The arena doors are right behind the arena merchant. Again, I'm not going to spoil where this is. I think it's fun to find. In the starting zone at the small settlement, there's another shop here at the small settlement that sells more implants for our surgery table. This is the bounty officer. These guys are actually in several of the small towns around. This is just the easiest one to get to. Here you can exchange successful bounty tokens for more implants. You can see here I've already purchased one, and I now have it unlocked for more use. In addition, he'll also sell the power reversal for the changing of the genders. His tokens are actually really easy to get. I'm going to show you where one is right now. We're here at the small settlement, and there are these little purple faces. These little purple faces are actually mini field bosses. Defeating these mini field bosses are going to give you access to those bounty tokens, which you can spend at a shop. You can see here once we defeated them, we got the bounty tokens. They'll respawn tomorrow or a little later on. We can continue to farm these bounty tokens to unlock the implants and the other goodies in his shop. Every single base in Palworlds starts with the Pal Box. This is the most important structure and is what makes a base a base. This is a fast travel point and a storage location as well. I think there are 3 main types of bases in Palworld. The first type of base I call an exploration base. These are Pal Boxes you put down, but you're not really going to build out. This base I'm at right here is an exploration base. I'm going to open up the map and show you why. Before I do that, I want you to be aware that there might be some spoilers on things on the map when I open it, because maybe I've explored something you haven't. I'm here by this Anubis. I don't have a way to get here easily. The closest fast travel point is all the way over here to the left, or I can go all the way across the water here to the right. These aren't very close by. If I want to fight this Anubis consistently, I need to have a way to get here. And I used the Pal Box to build an exploration base. I picked this location here for 2 reasons. One, we are actually up on a little bit of a cliff. You can see as we fall off here, it's a little bit tough to get up here. I'm not going to be defending this place from a raid, but a raid is going to have a really tough time getting up to me because I'm up the cliff. The second reason I picked this location is because it has this coal. This is a resource that I needed at the time of building. When you're thinking about where to place down your exploration bases, think about the resources around you and the geography you're on. This is another location that's very remote and hard to get to. There's just not a lot of spawn points anywhere near us. You can see we're pretty isolated here on this island. If I open up the map, closest fast travel point is way over here at the plateau beginning, and I am super far south here. But on this island here, there's lots of good and fun things that spawn in. So I built a Pal Box. This is an exploration base. I picked this location for the box for 2 reasons. First reason is there's a free chest that spawns in here. That's always nice. I'm actually up on a little cliff again. I'm going to fall off the cliff here. You can see there's actually quite a distance up this cliff. Everything spawns down where I'm walking around right now. Or they spawn a little further down there. I want you to be thinking about that when you're thinking about if you're going to place down a Pal Box for exploring. Think about where you put the box, not because of the resources, but the geography of the placement and what spawns around you. You might not get it right every time, but with time and practice, you're going to get better at figuring out what makes a good exploration base location. For me, it's an isolated location that has spawns I'm trying to farm. The second type of base you're going to build in Palworld is going to be the resource base. This is not your main base, but it's got a resource you want. For example, this ore right here in front of us. This is an important resource early on. This is a base you're going to build several times and take apart several times as you unlock new resources that you need. This looks like a pretty good spot to build a base. We're going to build one here together so you can see just how easy and simple this can be. All bases start with the Pal Box. We'll place this down first. Before we finish the build, while it's still just a little ghost, we're going to look around at the circle. I can see here that blue line shows that we didn't quite get this rock in the base. I want to make sure it's fully in the base. Let's move our Pal Box before we commit too far. We've canceled the build. We're going to rebuild it. We'll just take a few steps back. Okay, let's see how we did. Did we get all these ore rocks in the base? Here's our blue line. We can clearly see all the ore rocks are inside that blue line. Everything inside the line, our pals are going to be able to harvest. This is perfect. I'm happy with this. First thing we're going to build is a feed box. After the feed box, we're going to build a berry plantation. These are the 2 structures that are going to make sure the pals working at this base have food. The berry plantation here needs planting, watering, gathering, and transporting. There are lots of pals that can do all of these skills. Let's look what I've caught. Look, I have this little tansy. It can plant, it can gather, and it can transport. This is all the things I need. You might not have this little guy, but you might have something similar. Look, here's a lift monk. This guy can plant, gather, but it can't transport. That's okay. We can work around that. Pay attention to the work suitability of who you put in the base. Since Tansy can plant, gather, and transport, we only need watering. I've got a celery. Celery is a great pickup as well. It has watering and transporting, two things that would really help us out. This base is officially self-sustaining for food, but it still needs a few more things. We need to make sure we build some beds. You build whatever bed you have. I'm going to build 4. That's going to be 1 more than we need, which should be plenty. This base has beds and a berry plantation and a berry box. We now need somebody to actually mine the rocks. You can see a Cativa has mining level 1 and transporting and gathering. This would be a great pick. I don't have another Cativa. This one's busy right now. But I do have an extra Incineram hanging out. This Incineram has the mining that we need. The space is almost done. We need to build a storage box. It's important to understand the PAL box here. You can see there's a blue orb on the front. The blue PAL sphere here on the right, that is the front side of the PAL box. Here on the left, that is the back side of the PAL box. We want to build our first chest as close to the back side of the PAL box as we can. So we're going to start the build and walk backwards. Once the icon turns green, we'll build. That'll be good enough. The reason we build here is because when you fast travel between bases, you're going to fast travel at your PAL box, and it's going to fast travel you and deliver you on the back side of the PAL box. Okay? So if you're over and encumbered with stuff, you can go into your inventory. I can take all these logs and drop them. Then I can take a step forward to the PAL box here, and I can pick up the wood. I can turn my camera, and then I can deliver the wood into the PAL box here. It's important to have this storage box here behind your PAL box so that you can manage your inventory if you're over encumbered. At level 40, you unlock the guild chest. I think this is a better structure to build at your resource bases. You're not going to have this right away, but it's worth building. The guild chest is a shared storage location between all of your bases. So if you build a guild chest here at your resource base and a second guild chest at your home base, whatever resources you put in either box individually go to a shared storage location that both boxes can access. That means if you build just the guild box at your resource bases, you won't need to continually travel back and forth to these bases because the guild chest has a shared inventory. This is a great structure as you progress through Palworld to build at your bases to manage your resource base storage needs. Congratulations, you now have the fundamentals of a resource base. As you journey on through Palworld, you're going to build these bases a couple of times and take them apart as you unlock new resources you want to go and get. The fundamentals of a resource base do not change. You want to go find the resource you need. You want to make sure the base has some food coming in, a place to sleep, and some storage, and a way to harvest that resource. These are the absolute minimum needs of a resource base. Over time, this will look different as you need different resources, but the fundamentals are still there. At this base, I needed some oil. You can see I have all the same structures we built earlier. I have a couple of beds for my pals to be able to sleep in. I have a very simple berry box and berry farm for them to eat. Oil requires these oil pumps, which need electricity, which need pals with electrical generation. And all of this needs to be stored somewhere, so I built these big storage bins. The biggest difference with this resource base is that it really drains the sanity of the pals, the SAN, the sanity, working on this energy generation. One thing I did to help manage that was build these saunas. There are 3 tiers of hot springs you can build to help manage the sanity. The earliest one's unlocked at level 9. And later on, you can get more advanced structures. One other small change at this base is I built the monitoring stand. This is because I want my 2 pals to focus on electricity generation instead of transporting the goods. I'd rather let my other 2 pals here transport the goods. As you progress through Palworld, you're going to continue to build these resource bases as needed, and they're going to all look about the same. They might get a little more tricky to build, but the fundamentals here are going to stay the same. As you journey through Palworld, there's going to be a 3rd type of base. It's going to be your main base, your headquarters, your core base, that home base where you do everything from. I've made this monstrosity that I've kind of outgrown. Everything's a little bit of a mess, and this just naturally happens over time. One of the reasons for this is that oftentimes the new structures are a little bit larger than some of the old structures. Also, we catch new pals and we find new friends that are a little better at a job, or maybe they path a little bit differently, or they're just larger and they don't quite fit the same way that everything else does. What I have here actually works and does everything. It just doesn't do anything very well, and we can do this so much better. I have outgrown this location. An easy example is the furnaces. This brick furnace here is one of the first ones we unlock. The next furnace we unlock is this electrical furnace. It's quite a bit larger. And further up the furnace tier, we all of a sudden have this monstrosity of a furnace, this big circular, 4-pal furnace. It's just a monster to put down. It simply does not take up the same amount of space as our brick furnace. There's lots of crafting buildings that behave just like these furnaces. They just change shape and get larger over time. We could kind of squeeze this second tier one into our first tier furnace slot. But once we get into this third tier furnace, it's just too big. This was a really good location for my first home base. Even with the limited space, I was able to build vertically. This let me have an entire second level dedicated to some of these larger structures. I know we can do better than this. It's time to move our home base to a new location. I think the most important thing for your home base is that it's nice, flat, and open. And there's one main reason for this. In the tech tree, you can see we can unlock a coal mine, a sulfur mine, and a quartz mine. We can also unlock a logging site and the ore mine. This means that we can build resource bases to get some of the more tricky and highly specialized resources, and we can build those mining sites to have some resources coming in our home base as well. This makes the most important location long-term just to be as flat and open as possible. There's lots of good locations for this on the map. This is one really strong location for a home base. There's lots of open space. There's a little bit of an incline here, but we can build around that. It's not a big deal, especially when we have this much just wide open space here for us to build in. If I open up the map, you can see in the lower left corner, there's going to be coordinates negative, that's a minus sign, 483, comma, negative 86. That is the map location for this base. I'm going to show you it on the map again. I'm going to leave it up for a moment so you can get a good look at where this is. Here's another wide open flat space that might be fun to build. We could build a really cool base here. I'm going to show you where this is on the map. This is a third really nice spot to build. It's nice, it's flat, it's open, it's a little different from the other two. I like this one as well. On the map, there are lots of really, really great base locations to build. The more you explore, the more you're going to find places that you think might be fun to build your base. For your home base, I think the most important thing is the aesthetic, how it looks in the view. This base has a great view. Look, we can see the world tree from here. I love that. I'm going to build my base here. I think there's lots of open space, and I actually think there might just be enough space. I can maybe build a double base. I'm going to show you all the steps on how to do that. You might not have all the same buildings I have unlocked just yet, but the building I'm going to make here is something that you're absolutely going to be able to make yourself, and you don't have to build in this exact same location. Find a spot you think is lots of fun and build wherever you like. What I'm doing here is a little bit of an extra step you just don't have to do, but I'm going to show it to you anyway so that you know how to do it if you want to. The first thing you do is you throw down your PAL box, but since I know I want to build two bases here together, I first started off by picking a line that I like. I like this line of rocks right here. I thought this was just a good line. I said, you know, I can build around these rocks. These rocks are going to define one edge of my base. So the first thing I did was I lined up this first line of foundations down the rocks. This is going to make a nice clean line for where the edge of my base is going to be. The next thing I did was I threw down a PAL box. You can see the blue line of the PAL box coming across the rocks right now, going forward and going backwards. So I could use that blue line to figure out how close I was to the PAL box, just there on the edge. I know it's really hard to see, but I'm just on the edge of that foundation line right now. Before I built it out, I then would go back. It's easier with the flyer. And I can see, look, I'm just here on the edge of this with the blue line. Do I like this positioning? Okay. And then I could say, well, can I fit a second base in here? Am I happy with getting a second PAL box down in this corner here? It looks a little too tight right now, so I don't think so. But I used just one good baseline, and I built a foundation straight down this edge. And once I'm happy with the distance I am on this first line I made here, then I can make a second line perpendicular, right? And I wasn't happy with where this first line was, but I can use these foundation lines to get my first PAL box down the way I want it. If you're just building one base or you're not that particular, you just don't need to do this. But I'm using the foundations to line up my base. Once I find a line I think I like, I go ahead and build one 3x3 section of foundations. I'm not going to be able to change these later without moving the entire PAL box. Maybe in a future update they'll change that. I'm really happy with my first box placement. You don't need to do any of those steps to get it lined up. You can just throw it down in a space that you think you like. Don't overthink it. I'm just being picky. This is going to be a double base, which means we're going to build two PAL boxes in one big area. I want to make sure they're kind of lined up. So I'm just going to build a straight line of foundations. Once I built my straight line of foundations, I'll just walk this base back. You can see I can build it here, no problem. As we get closer, we're going to get a different message. Still no problem. Still no problem. Too close to another base. Okay, this is the limit right there. That's the foundation, that's the limit. So we'll need to build it a little bit back here. Let's just look how this looks at a glance. Right now, this is what we have going for us. We have one PAL box, which placement we're pretty happy with. We have a second PAL box, which we're about to get finalized. This is going to be where we're going to build our home base, our main base, our core base. By picking a spot with enough room for 2 PAL boxes, we can focus one base on maybe ranches and breeding and farming, and a second base on production. We won't have to fast travel between them. We can just walk. I've walled everything off, and I made just a little cross section of foundation, so I have some idea of what section I'm building in. Again, you can just place down your PAL box and start building. You absolutely do not need to build this entire wall of any kind or put down these foundations. You can just start building the structures. I'm going to use these foundations because they're going to help me kind of eyeball where I am in my build. I'm going to use this base here on the left as a dedicated breeding and ranching base. I'm going to put down the ranches and some breeding factories and maybe some growing stuff. I haven't quite decided where I want to grow my food in the plantations. I'm going to use this side as a dedicated crafting zone. I may want to make it part of the food zone, but I know that for sure that I want to craft on this right base. And on the left base, I'm going to be using the ranches and the breeding. That's what my current plan is. We'll see how things unfold. Something I think is really important to remember is we're limited by our space. And one of the best things we can do is to build vertically. So we're definitely going to build some layers up. When you're building up, you always have at least 2 choices. You can use the stairs or you can use the slanted roof. A lot of the times I go with the slanted roof. It's a little bit overkill, but I like to build my upstairs. When I build stairs up, I like to build them 3 wide and 3 tall. You really don't need to do this. You could go with something much smaller. But this I've had a lot of success with, and I like it. This is part of why I built this little triangle coming from the center of the PAL box, because now I know my line is 1, 2, 3, and this 4th foundation is where I need the support. Again, it's a little bit overkill here. It's overbuilt, but I like to have a full 3 squares for my turn. This means if there's a full 3 spaces coming up, I like to have a full 3 spaces to turn my corners. Because I know I'm going to build this second level up. On this ground level, I need to make sure I have foundations with no more than a 2 space gap between them. I could go 3 space, but I like to go 2. This is a quick view of the ground level, but just the base foundations. And then where we're at with the second level. We don't have to stop there. We can have a ground level, a first level, and we can build right up into a 3rd level. Because we're limited in our space from side to side, we can always go a little more vertical. This is a good option to increase the space you have in your base. We can build ceilings all the way across here. And we can build up a 3rd level, a 4th, a 5th. We can keep going up. I'm not going to show you every single step of this build, but I want you to be thinking about building vertically over time. To recap once, everything has to be built on a foundation. When you're building away from foundations, you can build 2 tiles away. See, here's 1 tile. Here's the 2nd tile. We cannot go 3 tiles away from the foundation. It's not going to let us. There's not enough support. That's how we knew we could build 1, 2 tiles, and then our foundation when we were laying that ceiling. Everything has to have a foundation within 2 tiles of it. 2 tiles away, not 3. This also means this one foundation here, if it crumbles, that entire ceiling will fall. But not these 2 ceilings, because they are 2 tiles away from this wood foundation. But they're all being held up by this wall. What happens if we take away the foundation the wall's on? Well, it's on 2 foundations. What about this one here? They all fall. Understanding just how far away you are from your foundations is going to let you build in peace and ease. Because we're limited by our space from side to side, we're instead building vertically. This formation is just really, really basic and simple and leaves us room to expand further if we need to. But this is actually a lot of space. If you've been building flat on the ground this whole time, you've quite literally tripled the amount of buildable space you now have in one location. And remember, this is a double base build. So we have 1 PAL box here in this little tower, and we have another PAL box over here in this yet to be built location. The scariest part about this tower build currently is the entire thing is being held up by this 1, 2, 3 up ramp slopes. If those 3 ramp slopes go down, this entire structure completely crumbles. There's ways we could support it more, but we don't really need to. I made this first layer just 3 wide. These are 3 tiles wide inside the base, or just 3 tiles wide. The reason I did that is simple. It's just enough space to build the ranch But the back edge is just inside our base here, and there's room to walk along this front edge here. If you're having trouble placing a ranch in a 3-tile space, give yourself more room to work. I'll build out 2 more tiles here, and then I'll just comfortably walk my ranch forward till it can't fit, and I'll back up a little bit. And now it fits just fine because I had 2 more tiles to work with here to walk on. I don't need these tiles, they can go. We could line this entire roof edge with ranches, and maybe we will. This top floor is all the way filled in. I'm going to put a breeding farm up here. The breeding farm is a lot larger than the ranch. There's plenty of room. I'm not being super efficient with my space, but I've got plenty of space to be a little bit wasteful with. If I was really focused on only breeding, I would fill in this section of the ceiling here, so I had a few more tiles to build on, and I could do this whole second level with the breeding farms, as well as this first level. Remember, in your world select, you can change your world settings. Then you can go in the custom settings. And in here, there's 2 key settings to remember. You can change the maximum number of worker pals at a base, and you can change the maximum number of bases for each guild. The other setting you want to know about is the structure deterioration rate. These are 3 very important settings. Any structure built outside the blue circle of your base can and will deteriorate if that setting isn't set to 0. So this wall I just built here will completely disappear if the structure deterioration is turned on. You need to have some idea of your world settings before you start building outside of your base. Otherwise, what you're building might just disintegrate, disappear, and be gone forever. I think realistically, you never need more than 3 ranches at most, and you can probably get away with just 1. I think 2 is the most comfortable. How many ranches you have is going to be decided by how many pals you have in your base limits. If you're only allowed 15 pals in your base, you probably have a dedicated ranch base or just 1 ranch in your base. Mine is set to the current maximum of 50. That's 50 pals, half of 100. I can afford to have a lot of specialty ranches moving me forward. Knowing your world settings is going to change how you build your base. The most important lesson here is not just about building vertically and understanding what you can build, but also understanding what pals you're planning to put in your base. I don't really like to do a lot of breeding, so 2 or 3 of these farms is going to be more than enough for me. But I've got plenty of room to expand if I change my mind or start a new project. I really like the ranches. I think they're lots of fun. I love going out and catching pals and letting them come back to my base and harvest stuff for me. But there's a pretty limited number of pals that actually harvest things. And a lot of the things they harvest, you don't really need too many of most of the time. I think one of the most important buildings in your base is unlocked at level 40, which is the guild chest. This chest is a storage unit that is shared the same storage space between all your bases. This means when I'm building this new base and I'm trying to move bases, as soon as I can put down this guild chest, I can access my resources at my previous base. I divided this base into 4 corners. Let's use this top right corner for mining. First thing I'll place is this logging site. Then I still have room for my stone pit. But before I place this stone pit, it's better to place down a chest a little bit between them. You can see I'll just line up the chest right here. Let's put down our stone pit next. It doesn't need to be perfect. The important thing to know here is that if somebody's here lumbering or someone's here in the stone pit harvesting stone, they won't actually run all the way back to our guild chest because there's a closer chest right next to them. I'll often build a chest right by these 2 locations just so that I know where to go look for my stone or my wood. We'll place down an ore mining site and then our coal mining site. Next, we'll put down the sulfur mining site. I'm actually going to remove the logging site. I changed my mind. And instead, I'm going to put down the quartz mine. I know you're not going to have all these sites unlocked right at the start, but I want you to know that they exist and they're things that over time you're going to be able to build, and they fit in just 1 corner of the base. No problem. One change we can make here to manage the resources is get rid of all the storage boxes. It would force all of our transportation pals to take all these resources all the way over to the guild box, which might be better. Or we could place just 1 centralized box that I know is going to be a little closer than the guild box to save on transporting. And that way I don't have to run around and check 1 box, 2nd box, and a 3rd box for whatever resource I need. I would know that this is the closest box of these resources, and this is where they should be. Structures I like to have towards the center of the base are storage boxes and anything that improves sanity or the workers might take a break. This means the feed box is going to be towards the center of the base, as are the hot springs. The feed box and the hot springs are both tools we can use to improve our workers' sanity as well as their production, and I want them towards the center of the base so that it's a shorter distance for workers to work. If I put them around the edge of my base, the workers are going to have to go super duper far. It's better for the pals to have less distance between the spaces they're taking a break and the spaces they're actively working in. Okay, this first quarter of our base here is all of the harvesting buildings for the mining and the wood cutting. Let's use this second quarter here for planting. I'll place wheat first. Next, I'll do tomatoes, potatoes, lettuce, carrots, onions, and of course berries. It's kind of impressive once you see all of them actually just nicely placed together and how much of space they take up in the base actually is for all the plantations. Yes, there's a few more we could place down, but these are the core ones we need for most things. And this is probably overkill. A lot of the times I get away with just berries and wheat. There's also the skill fruit orchard, but I don't tend to mess with this very much. Maybe later on more of these growing plots will be added, but as you can see, there's plenty of room to fill this in. We have farming in one corner of our base. We have some material mining and logging in the next corner. Let's turn this next corner into the production. You're not going to have this building right away, but eventually you will unlock the production assembly line number 2 and an advanced assembly line further on. They're very large structures. There's also the always important sphere assembly line number 2. And who could forget our weapon assembly line? You're going to have these same production buildings in different forms for producing your weapons, your spheres, and your general production tasks. I want you to see here that even at their largest size, there's just plenty of room to fit them into a one-level base. I'm not going to finish this entire build here in this video, but I want you to see just how much space we actually have to work with inside of even just a one-level base. There's plenty of room to build even some of the largest structures. I know we haven't built every single structure in here, but I really want you to see that you can absolutely just have one main base that just has one open, flat, singular level. This is definitely something that's doable. They can fit even the largest of crafting tables and of mining plots. Totally doable. I want you to recognize that and understand that. In addition, you can also build something quite a bit vertical. It gives you even more options for even more space. Just across the lane here, we built just a very basic, very simple tower that has so much room for us to be successful in whatever we want to build. I think this is one of the coolest space spots in all of Palworld to date. It's this one singular island. And it looks like you're about to just go into just an absolute jungle here, right? As we make our way into the jungle, it's like a little hidden lagoon. Look at this place. It's just gorgeous. I mean, look. Someone really cared about designing this place. It has this giant shell, this wonderful little miniature world tree. There's this water feature you could build around, these lily pads with the flowers. I think this is such a gorgeous, gorgeous base design. And since you know you can go vertical, you can definitely build something special here. One of the reasons this location is really good is you might have noticed when we were placing down our mining facilities, there isn't a mining structure for oil. You need to go find oil nodes eventually, and you're going to have to place down the oil structures here to harvest them. But this location already has the oil nodes on it. A lot of the oil nodes are somewhere that I don't really want to build a base. It's kind of like a lava zone or a desert zone. But this spot is just so gorgeous. I mean, I think this is you could really make a special base here. I think this is a really cool location to build a base. I'm of course going to show you the map coordinates for it and the map view of it as well. It's pretty far away. Well, you can see it's right here on the map, just kind of in this top right corner. If you like this video, click like. YouTube channel members and the Patreon to support what I do. I'm Vadd, and I will see you in the next one.